I knew my marriage was truly over the moment my mother-in-law set her suitcase on my bed and said, "Starting tonight, your father and I are taking this room. You two can sleep in the office." She said it in a condo titled solely in my name. A condo my own parents had helped me buy 3 years before I got married. A condo my husband had never paid a single dollar toward in principal, property tax, or major repairs. I stood in the bedroom doorway, still wearing my employee badge, my feet aching in heels after 11 straight hours of meetings, and stared at 2 old suitcases, 3 cardboard boxes, 4 grocery bags, and a huge bundle of blankets blocking most of the hallway. My name is Lauren Whitaker. I was 36 years old. I lived in Chicago. I had been married to Kevin Foster for 7 years. That evening, I had just returned to my River North condo after a long day at Meridian Health Technologies, where I was a senior director of commercial operations. All I wanted was to open the door, change clothes, warm up a bowl of soup, and lie still for 10 minutes. Instead, the private elevator doors opened and I smelled smoked meat, menthol ointment, and something that reminded me of mothballs. The condo door was open. A pair of muddy boots sat on the cream entry rug. The accent chair I had bought in Milan was buried under a thick winter coat. The living room television was blasting a game show so loudly I could hear it from the hallway. My father-in-law, Robert Foster, was sitting on the sofa with his feet on the ottoman. My mother-in-law, Linda, sat at the dining table, shelling roasted peanuts and piling the shells directly on the walnut surface. Kevin stood beside the kitchen island, calmly peeling an orange. I asked, "What is going on?" Linda looked at me as though I were the one entering her home. "You're back. Good. We haven't had dinner yet. Go change and make something hot." I did not move. I asked what you're doing here. Robert frowned. "Is that how you speak to older people?" I turned to Kevin. He avoided my eyes. Linda answered for him. "We sold the house in Indiana." I looked at her. "Sold it?" "Yes." "When?" 2 weeks ago." "And now?" "Now we're moving to Chicago to live with you two." She said it like she was announcing the weather. Not asking. Not proposing. Informing. I stood there for a few seconds. Robert and Linda had owned a small ranch house outside Fort Wayne. It was not fancy, but the mortgage had been paid off years ago. I had asked more than once whether they wanted to move into a senior community near Chicago. They always said, "We're still healthy." I had offered to help them find a smaller condo in the suburbs. Linda said, "Chicago is too expensive." And yet now they had sold their home, packed their lives into suitcases, and walked straight into mine without one phone call. I asked, "How long are you planning to stay?" Linda laughed. "You still don't understand? We're moving in permanently. When you get older, you rely on your children. Kevin is our son. You're his wife. Taking care of us is natural." I looked at Kevin. He put an orange slice in his mouth, chewed, and said, "Don't make this into a big thing." "You knew?" "I knew they wanted to sell." "You knew they were moving here?" He paused. "I thought I would tell you." "When?" "This weekend." "They are already standing in my bedroom." "Lauren, how long have you known?" "More than a month." Something inside my chest went cold. Not anger. Not exactly. Recognition. 7 years of marriage had given me many moments of disappointment. But this was the first time Kevin showed me that he was willing to decide the future of my home with his parents without me being part of the conversation. I asked, "You agreed they could live here?" Kevin sighed. "They're getting older. They're 66 and 68. That is older. They both drive, travel, and take care of themselves." "You know what I mean." "No, I'm trying to understand." Linda cut in. "Other daughters-in-law would be happy to have family move in. You're acting like we're taking something from you." I looked at the boxes blocking the hallway. I said nothing. Linda stood and walked toward the primary bedroom. This room is best. Good light. Private bathroom. Your father's back hurts. We'll use it. She reached for the closet door. Move your clothes to the little room across the hall. I stepped forward and put my hand on the closet before she could open it. No. Linda turned. What? No one is moving into my bedroom, Robert called from the sofa. You have several rooms and you're still counting space? Kevin frowned. Lauren, they just want to be comfortable. So do I, in my home. He said quietly, but clearly enough. You're my wife. Stop saying my home like that. I looked directly at him. The deed has only my name. Your parents helped with the down payment before we married, yes. Not only the down payment. I paid the mortgage for 4 years before I married you, and paid off the rest using money I inherited from my grandmother. Kevin, you know this condo is my separate property. Linda slapped her hand against the chair. You're threatening your husband with paperwork now? I haven't threatened anyone, Kevin said. Enough. He turned toward me. My parents sold their house. They don't have anywhere to go back to. I told them they could stay here. You promised them my house? His face reddened. We're married. Marriage does not mean one spouse gets to promise the other spouse's separate property to someone else. He clenched his jaw. Then he said the sentence that ended everything. Can you please stop being selfish? My parents raised me. I'm their only son with the means to help. I work all day. You have more flexibility in your schedule. You can get up a little earlier and make breakfast. Clean on weekends. They aren't used to delivery food. Cooking 2 extra portions isn't difficult. I looked at him. Who exactly did you just say is responsible for taking care of your parents? Both of us. No. Say it clearly. Kevin frowned. Lauren. You want me to cook, clean, shop, take your parents to appointments, and cover their living expenses? We're family. Are you going to do half? He was silent. Linda answered for him. Men work and handle bigger responsibilities. I turned toward her. I work too. She shrugged. A woman can be as successful as she wants. She still has to know how to take care of a family. I stopped arguing. I walked into the home office. My laptop was still on the desk where I had left it that morning. Beside it sat the Navy folder I had received at 5:30 that afternoon. Meridian Health Technologies, EMEA Transformation Assignment. I had refused to open it all evening. The company wanted to send me to London for 5 years to lead a commercial operations integration program after 3 acquisitions. Not a business trip. A real international assignment. Start date, 3 weeks away. The company would provide work authorization, housing allowance, tax equalization, relocation support, health insurance, and scheduled travel back to the United States. I had been under consideration for almost 2 months. I had not accepted because of Kevin. He did not want to leave Chicago. He said his career was here. He worked as an account coordinator for an office equipment distributor. Salary, about $68,000 a year. Not low, but for 7 years, I had carried most household expenses because I earned far more. Mortgage, back when there was one. Me. Property tax. Me. HOA. Me. Groceries. Me. Vacations. Mostly me. Kevin often said, I send a little to my parents. I never objected. Over time, a little grew. Then there was Chloe, his younger sister. Divorced. Opened a salon. Credit card debt. Whenever she was short on money, Kevin helped. I did not know the total. I only knew the household account always needed me to refill it. That night, I opened the folder. The last page was the acceptance form. I called my boss. Margaret? Lauren? I'm taking London. The line went silent for a second. You're sure? Yes. Kevin agreed? I looked through the glass office door. He was dragging one of his parents' boxes into the hall closet. This is my career decision. Margaret understood and did not ask more. HR will send the package tomorrow morning. Flight date? 3 weeks. You can begin transition immediately. Good. I hung up. Then I pulled out my carry-on suitcase. I did not pretend I was flying the next day. I did not need to. I had 3 weeks to do what I should have done a long time ago. Separate my life from a system that had grown used to treating me as a resource. I returned to the living room. Kevin looked at the suitcase. What are you doing? I accepted the London assignment. His face changed. What? It starts in 3 weeks. For how long? 5 years. Linda stood up sharply. 5 years? Robert turned off the television. Kevin walked toward me. You said you were going to decline. I changed my mind. Without discussing it with me? I looked at him. Like you discussed your parents moving in? His body went rigid. That isn't the same. You're right. The assignment is my career. The condo is my separate property. You made decisions about both without me. Kevin lowered his voice. If you're gone for 5 years, what am I supposed to do? I asked. And your parents? He looked at me. I knew the next sentence before he said it. Who is going to take care of them? I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because everything was suddenly clear. You are. Linda said. If you really go, who pays the expenses here? Starting next month, I'm no longer paying personal expenses for the 3 of you. Kevin went pale. What do you mean? I'll continue paying HOA and property tax because the condo is mine. Basic utilities will be transferred to you if you remain here during the transition. Groceries, housekeeping, meal delivery, your authorized user card, entertainment, your car expenses, you handle them. Lauren, you can't. I can. You're my wife. And you just said supporting your parents is a family duty. I agree. You're their son. You do it. Linda pointed at me. You're abandoning your husband and family to run overseas. That's irresponsible. I pulled the suitcase upright. I'm not flying tonight. I'm moving to a hotel until my flight. Kevin grabbed my wrist. Not hard. But enough to stop me. Are you punishing me? I looked at his hand. He released me. I'm stopping the things you've been treating as automatic. That is different. I packed clothes, my laptop, passport, important documents, and some valuables. I would come back for the rest with the building manager and an attorney if necessary. Before I closed the door, I said, I fly in 3 weeks. Until then, I'm still working. If you want to talk about our marriage, schedule time with me. If your parents need care, arrange it yourself. And Kevin? He looked at me. Do not promise anything else that belongs to me. I left. That night, I stayed in a Marriott-serviced apartment less than 2 miles away. My best friend, Rachel Kim, arrived close to 11. Rachel was a family law attorney. She set 2 boxes of Thai food on the table. Eat? I'm not hungry. Then eat 3 bites. I ate 4. Then I told her everything. Rachel listened and asked only one question. Whose name is on the condo deed? Mine. Bought before marriage? 3 years before. Were marital funds used to pay down principal after marriage? Barely. The remaining balance had already been paid from an inheritance account before the wedding. Records? Yes. Good. Joint accounts? 1 checking, 1 savings. Don't empty them. I'm not going to. Credit cards? Kevin is an authorized user on one of my personal cards. You can remove him. Household services? In my name. You can cancel them. Rachel looked at me. From now on, don't do anything just because you want them uncomfortable. I know. Do it for boundaries, documentation, and protection. I nodded. Security cameras? Doorbell, living room, office. Visible. None in bedrooms or bathrooms. Audio? Off. Good. Rachel opened her laptop. Tomorrow we start with a financial inventory. And after that? If you want a divorce, we prepare. I looked at her. I do. Rachel did not ask. Are you sure? She only asked, does Kevin know yet? No. Then sleep tonight. I leaned back against the sofa. For the first time in years, when I thought about the next morning, I did not need to make a list of what to buy, what to cook, who needed what. I had only one job: protect the rest of my life. The next morning, I did exactly what Rachel told me to do. No more, no less. I called the bank. The premium credit card was in my name. Kevin was only an authorized user. I removed him, not to make sure he couldn't afford food, because I was no longer willing to let someone I was preparing to divorce keep direct access to my credit line. I redirected my salary deposit to an individual account. I stopped the automatic $4,000 monthly transfer from my personal checking into the household account. I left the joint savings account alone. Did not touch a dollar. Rachel said, let it sit. If there's a dispute later, tracing is easier. I also did not lock Kevin out of the joint checking account. There was still more than $11,000 in it. Enough for utilities, groceries, and common expenses for several months if he budgeted reasonably. Then I canceled housekeeping twice a week, laundry pickup, the grocery delivery subscription, the meal prep service, and the extra parking pass connected to the SUV I owned, but Kevin usually drove. I did not take the car immediately. I only changed the insurance billing so he would have to reimburse his portion if he continued using it during the 3-week transition. Rachel looked at the list. You were paying for all of this? I didn't really notice. That is exactly the problem. I opened a spreadsheet. 7 years. A pile of small recurring charges. $120. $180. $350. $79. $650. Individually, none looked dramatic. Together, the household support I automatically covered each month exceeded $7,000, not counting property tax, HOA, and larger expenses. Kevin deposited roughly $1,500 to $2,000 into the joint checking account each month. Where did the rest of his salary go? I did not know. Rachel said, don't guess. Wait for statements. I nodded. Around 9 that morning, Kevin called. The card got declined. I know. You canceled it? Yes. I'm at Whole Foods. Use the joint debit card. There isn't enough in joint checking to buy everything for the week if you stop transferring. There's more than $11,000. But there are bills. Then make a budget. Silence. Lauren. What? Mom and Dad want salmon, fresh fruit, and that yogurt you always buy. You can buy it. It's expensive. I know. Do you hear how childish this is? I'm letting adults pay for their own expenses. His voice dropped. My parents are really upset. Handle it. The housekeeper didn't come today. I canceled her. Laundry didn't come either. Correct. You're really doing this? I'm simply stopping services I pay for. Kevin exhaled hard. I work all day. So do I. My parents aren't used to doing everything themselves. then teach them. I hung up. That evening, I opened the security app. Not to watch them like a television show. I wanted to make sure no one forced open the office or removed anything significant from the condo. The living room camera recorded video only. No audio. I saw Linda watching television, Robert asleep on the sofa, Kevin carrying in 4 grocery bags. He put them on the counter and stood there for almost a full minute, then began putting things away. No one helped him. I closed the app. I did not need to watch more. 3 days later, Kevin texted, "Can we talk without attorneys?" I replied, "Tonight, 7, coffee shop downstairs from your office." He arrived 10 minutes late. Dark circles under his eyes. My parents are driving me insane. I took a sip of coffee. 3 days. You don't understand. You can tell me. Mom wants hot breakfast. Dad refuses frozen food. They both refuse to use the dishwasher because they say hand washing is cleaner. But neither one wants to wash anything. I looked at him. That sounds like work. Lauren. I'm serious. He leaned back. I'm sorry about the bedroom. Good. They moved into the guest room. I'm not coming back. I didn't ask that. I'm telling you. You leave in less than 3 weeks. Yes. We should use the time. For what? To fix this. Are you willing to tell your parents they cannot live in my condo after I leave? Kevin looked down. They sold their house. That was their decision. You want me to throw them out? I want you and them to find a solution that does not rely on my separate property. Lauren, they're my parents. I know. Why are you being so cold? I put my cup down. Kevin, for 7 years I have paid most of our household expenses. I never used that to humiliate you. But you just decided I would keep paying for housing, food, and caregiving for 2 more adults without even asking me. That isn't family. That is assigning responsibility, he said. I'll do more. I no longer believe vague promises. What do you want? Your parents out of the condo before I fly. Kevin was silent. I can help you find a rental or senior apartment. I am not paying their rent. You and your parents decide. What about our marriage? I've spoken to a lawyer. His face lost color. You filed? Not yet. But you will. Kevin. I didn't decide yesterday. I decided when you called me selfish because I refused to become your parents' unpaid caregiver in my own home. He looked down. I didn't think you'd take it this far. I didn't think you'd promise my home to other people. We left the coffee shop without reconciling. That night, Rachel sent me a draft petition. I did not sign it yet. I wanted the full financial picture first. On day 5, a 4th adult moved into the condo. Chloe Foster, Kevin's younger sister, 33, divorced for almost a year. 1 7-year-old son named Owen. Chloe had opened a salon in Indiana. When it was doing well, she posted on Instagram, "Female founder, independent mom, building an empire." When she needed money, she called Kevin. I knew because Kevin had often said, "Chloe is struggling." I just had never known the scale. The building app notified me. Guest pass requested for Chloe Foster, extended access. I declined it. 10 minutes later, Kevin called. You denied Chloe's pass? Yes. She's here with Owen. For how long? A few days. No. Lauren. The condo is not a shelter for your entire family. Her landlord is forcing her out. Why? Late rent. Then help her find a hotel or short-term rental. She has no money. I do not agree to 2 more people moving in. Kevin said. I live in the condo. I have the right to invite my sister. Short-term guests, yes. Moving in, No. The HOA also limits occupancy and extended guest registration. Stop turning this into rules. Rules exist for situations like this. Ultimately, Kevin used his right as a resident to register Chloe as a 48-hour guest. I could not instantly bar someone from a home that was still his marital residence without a court order. Rachel said, "Don't turn yourself into police. Document it. We'll deal with it." 2 days later, Chloe was still there. I returned to the condo with Rachel and the building manager to collect the rest of my belongings before the movers arrived. I gave notice by email. Kevin was at work. Linda and Chloe were home. The moment the door opened, I understood why the feeling of invasion had been so overwhelming. The living room was full of toys. A juice cup lay on its side on the rug. The kitchen sink was full. The condo smelled like old food. Linda looked at Rachel. "Who are you?" "Rachel Kim, Lauren's attorney." Linda's expression changed. "You brought a lawyer into this house?" I said, "I came to get my personal property." Chloe walked out of the bedroom. She was wearing my cashmere cardigan. I recognized it immediately. "Chloe." She looked down at the sweater. "Oh, that came from my closet. Mom said I could use it." I looked at Linda. She said, "It's one sweater." I did not argue. I said, "Take it off." Chloe's face reddened. "Seriously? It belongs to me," Rachel said softly. "Lauren, the movers are waiting." I walked to the bedroom. I had already removed most valuable items. But there were still a watch box, some insured jewelry, old passports, tax files, and the miniature architecture collection I kept in my home office. The collection was not enormous, but it mattered. My father, Michael Whitaker, had died from cancer 4 years earlier. He had been an architect. Starting when I was in middle school, every place we traveled together, the two of us bought a miniature model, Falling Water, the Chrysler Building, Sagrada Familia, Villa Savoy. Some were rare kits. Some he built himself. The entire collection had an insured value of about $38,000. Its value to me, impossible to calculate. I changed the office keypad and locked the room. Kevin knew the old code. I removed it. The building manager looked at me. "Do you want us to restrict maintenance access?" "Only with my written approval, unless it's an emergency." Done. We packed my things. Before leaving, I told Linda, "You and Robert need to leave the condo before I fly." She gave me a hard smile. "Kevin is your husband. He has the right to live here. If his parents stay with him, who are you to stop us?" Rachel answered for me. "We'll address occupancy in writing." Linda looked at her. "I don't speak to lawyers." Rachel smiled. "That's fine. You don't have to." That evening, Kevin called. "You brought a lawyer in and scared my parents. I want them to understand this is no longer a household argument. Chloe is only temporary. She still has to follow the building rules. You're throwing my entire family out." "No. I'm saying they cannot treat my property as the default solution to their problems." He asked, "Do you still love me?" I did not answer immediately. Finally, I said, "I don't know. But I know I don't trust you anymore." The line stayed silent for a long time. Then he said, "I'll fix it." I hung up. I had heard that sentence before. The difference was that I used to mistake a promise for a change. Now I knew. A promise is only a sentence. Change requires behavior. 1 week before my flight, Linda was taken to the emergency room. Kevin called at 7:12 in the morning. I was already at the office. "Mom has chest pain." "Which hospital?" "Northwestern Memorial." What did the doctors say? They're still testing. What do you need from me? Could you send me some money as a cushion? I frowned. What insurance do your parents have? Medicare and a supplemental plan. Then basic emergency care is not something you need to pay cash for up front. I just want a buffer. How much is left in joint checking? He was silent. Kevin, about 3,000. There was more than 11,000 less than 2 weeks ago. Groceries. 3 adults and 1 child ate $8,000 of groceries? There were bills. Send the statement to Rachel. Lauren, I'm not transferring more money until I know where the money went. His voice dropped. You think I'm hiding something? I'm divorcing you. This is exactly when transparency matters most. 2 hours later, Kevin sent the statement. It was not $8,000 of groceries. There was $1,800 to Chloe, $900 cash withdrawal, $1,200 toward a credit card in Kevin's name that I had never known about, $700 for a repair on Robert's car, $600 at restaurants, and a long list of smaller charges. None of it shocked me. It only confirmed what I already understood. When money was available, Kevin allocated it to his family first. He called again that afternoon. Mom didn't have a heart attack. What did the doctors say? Anxiety, high blood pressure, mild dehydration. Good. They want to observe her for a few hours. Okay. Mom says you abandoned her when she needed you. I closed my eyes. Kevin, your mother is in one of the best hospitals in Chicago. She has doctors. She has insurance. She has a husband. She has a son. My refusal to transfer money does not mean I abandoned her. He did not answer. That afternoon, the hospital discharge planner suggested Linda be evaluated by a home health agency because she was reporting dizziness and weakness. Kevin signed for a 3-day evaluation package. Not me. Him. The agency sent a nurse to the condo. I knew because Kevin texted. This is expensive. I replied, Who signed? He wrote, I did. I answered, Then manage it. After 2 days, the nurse documented that Linda could walk independently, could bathe independently, did not require skilled home health care, and needed only blood pressure monitoring, hydration, and follow-up with her primary care physician. The service ended. There was no scene where I hired a caregiver to punish my mother-in-law. Only something much simpler. Once a professional evaluated her, no one could turn an anxiety episode into a reason for me to cancel London and become an unpaid nurse. That night, Kevin called. I understand part of it now. Part of what? Taking care of my parents is exhausting. I know. I shouldn't have said you had to do it. I know. I'm sorry. I listened, then asked, Have you told your parents they have to move out? Silence. I gave a small laugh. There, Lauren. You apologize when you're tired. But you still haven't done the thing that matters. I hung up. The next day, Rachel received Kevin's first set of financial disclosures under a voluntary exchange before filing. I sat with her in a conference room. Bank statements. Pay stubs. 401k. Credit cards. A spreadsheet Rachel had prepared. Over 7 years, Kevin had transferred more than $96,000 to Linda, Robert, and Chloe. Not all of it came from joint funds. About $61,000 came from the account where his salary was deposited. About $35,000 went directly from joint checking or was effectively reimbursed from household money I had replenished. That did not mean he had stolen our entire fortune. But the pattern mattered, especially the previous 6 months. 3 transfers, $12,000, $18,000, $25,000, All to Chloe Foster LLC. I looked at Rachel. The salon? She nodded. Looks like it. Kevin said he was only helping with rent. No. Anything else? Rachel slid a public filing across the table. Chloe Foster LLC had closed its old location. There was a landlord judgment, a UCC financing statement involving an equipment lender, and a civil complaint from a cosmetics distributor. Her business is in trouble. I can see that, but we still haven't found the proceeds from your in-laws' house, Rachel said. Not yet. 2 days later, the answer came from Kevin himself, not from secret investigation. He sent a long email. Subject: You deserve the full story. I opened it. 6 months earlier, Robert and Linda had decided to sell their Indiana house. Net proceeds after closing, about $284,000. They kept $42,000. The rest, $242,000, was transferred to Chloe, not placed in a certificate of deposit, not reserved for a smaller apartment. It was an unsecured family loan so Chloe could open a second salon location and pay down part of her business debt. Kevin knew. He had even signed as a witness on the family loan agreement. The email included a scan. I read it 3 times. Kevin wrote, I didn't tell you because Mom said you'd judge Chloe and refuse to let them move in if you knew they had given her the money. I stopped on that sentence. That was the whole story. No camera needed, no searching through drawers, no elaborate investigation. They knew I would object, so they hid it. They sold their own asset and gave almost all the proceeds to their daughter. Then they planned to transfer the cost of housing, food, and retirement care to me. Kevin knew, and helped them. I forwarded the email to Rachel. She called immediately. This is the turning point. I know. Kevin has admitted knowledge. I know. You okay? No. I thought I would be furious, but I just feel finished. Rachel stayed quiet. I said, I spent 7 years trying to figure out where I needed to be kinder. There's nothing left to figure out. That day, I signed the divorce petition. Rachel filed it. At the same time, counsel sent Kevin formal notice. The condo was my premarital separate property. I did not consent to extended occupancy by his parents or sister. Robert, Linda, and Chloe were required to leave within 10 days. Kevin could remain temporarily during the initial divorce proceedings subject to court orders, but could not move additional people in, and he had no authority to sell, mortgage, lease, advertise, or represent that he controlled the condo. I flew to London 4 days later. Before I left, I met Kevin one last time in a mediation room at Rachel's firm. He looked terrible. Why didn't you tell me before filing? I did. You told my parents to leave. Yes. You didn't say the marriage was over. I told you I had spoken to a lawyer. He looked at me. I was only trying to help Chloe. I never told you not to. But your parents gave her almost all the equity from their house. Then they moved into mine. And you told me I had a duty to support them. Do you hear how that sounds? Kevin lowered his head. Mom thought Chloe would pay it back. Then why did she say the money was locked in a 5-year CD? Because she was embarrassed. No. Because she wanted me not to ask. He did not argue. I said, I am not divorcing you because your parents needed somewhere to live. I am divorcing you because your whole family made a plan that depended on my property and my labor without giving me the right to know the truth. Kevin looked at me. I do love you. I believe you thought you did. So there's no chance? No. He closed his eyes. I stood. Movers are coming tomorrow for the rest of my things. Building management has the list. Don't interfere, he said, My parents will leave. Good. Chloe too. I nodded. The first time he actually did what I asked. Too late. London began with rain. Meridian rented me a furnished apartment in Canary Wharf for the first 3 months. On day 2, I met with the UK team. On day 3, I went to Amsterdam. On day 5, I slept 10 hours. I did not feel like I had run away. I was doing the job I had once been ready to decline because I was afraid my marriage could not survive distance. The truth was that my marriage had stopped tolerating my autonomy long before any plane ticket existed. 2 weeks later, the building manager called. "Lauren, we have an issue." I was in a taxi in London. What happened? Kevin's sister tried to re-enter after her access was removed. She had already moved out? Mostly. She came back today saying she needed to collect a few things. And? The corridor camera shows her trying to open your office door with a screwdriver. I sat up straight. Did she get in? It looks like the strike plate was damaged. My heart started pounding. The office? Security is standing outside. I need the video and an incident report. We'll send both. I called Rachel. Then I opened the security app. The office camera was visible on a shelf and recorded video only. No audio. I watched the clip. Chloe entered. Owen followed. She opened a drawer. Found nothing. Then went back toward the living room. Owen stayed behind. He looked at the cabinet containing the miniature models. The cabinet was secured with a simple latch. Owen pulled. It did not open. He picked up a metal ruler from the desk. Pried at the latch. It popped. A falling water model fell. Shattered. Then another. Then another. Then another. This was not a 7-year-old deliberately destroying $38,000 worth of property out of malice. He was a child left unsupervised in a room an adult had forced open. But when Chloe came back, she did not call me. Did not call building management. She gathered some of the broken pieces into a trash bag, then left. I sat in the London taxi staring at the small screen, unable to speak. My father and I had built that falling water model together when I was 14. He had glued one wall in the wrong place. I teased him about it for 20 years. Now it was in 3 pieces. The driver asked, "Ma'am, are you all right?" I said, "Yes." It was not true. Rachel handled it. No social media post. No residence group chat. She sent a preservation notice to Chloe. Building management banned her access. An insurance adjuster inspected the damage. An independent appraiser determined physical damage worth approximately $17,600. Some pieces could be restored, some could not. Chloe faced a civil claim for unauthorized entry and negligent supervision. Kevin called. "I'll pay." Why? Chloe doesn't have money. That's between you and her. Lauren, she's my sister. Yes. And I'm the person whose property was damaged. He went silent. I said, "Don't call me to ask me to drop the claim." "I'm not." "Good." I called to apologize. "I hear you. I thought you were overreacting when you said no one was allowed in the office." Now I understand. Kevin. What? You always understand after the consequence happens. I hung up. Then I sat by the apartment window for a long time. I did not cry over the money. I cried over my father. For an hour. Then I called my mother. She listened. Finally she said, "You know what your dad would say?" "What?" "Glue it if you can. And if you can't, keep one piece." I laughed through tears. That sounds like him. It does. After the restoration team finished, I kept one small broken piece of falling water. Not to remember Chloe, to remember Dad. From then on, I no longer needed the story to end with someone hurting more than I had. I only needed it to end correctly. 1 month after I moved to London, Chloe lost the salon. Not because some man ran away with all the money. The reality was less dramatic and more brutal. She opened the second location too early, signed a 10-year lease, financed expensive equipment, overspent on build-out. Revenue missed the forecast. Then one investor pulled out after discovering the books were not clean enough. There was no enormous fraud. Only a weak business, too much debt, and an owner who did not understand cash flow. Robert and Linda's $242,000 did not disappear overnight. It was consumed by rent, payroll, inventory, equipment payments, credit card interest, and months when revenue was not high enough. By the time Chloe understood the situation, almost nothing was left. She filed Chapter 7 for the business and considered personal Chapter 13, but eventually reached settlements with several creditors instead. Kevin emailed Rachel. "My parents are panicking. They need money for housing." Rachel forwarded it to me. I did not reply to Kevin directly. I told Rachel, "The condo still has to be vacated. No change." Rachel asked, "Do you want to offer temporary support?" "No. Not because of revenge. I understand. I already gave them a list of senior apartments and short-term rentals. Robert has Social Security. Linda has a small pension. They still have about $40,000 from the house sale. Kevin earns a salary. I'm not putting them on the street. I'm simply not housing them in my property." Rachel nodded. "Good." But Linda did not want a rental. She wanted River North. One morning, the building manager sent Rachel a screenshot from Facebook Marketplace. "For sale by owner. Luxury 2BR, River North condo. Urgent relocation." The price was almost 30% below market. Contact, Kevin Foster. Description, owner relocating internationally. Husband authorized to coordinate sale. Serious buyers only. I read it once. Then again. I was not angry. Only tired. I called Kevin. "You listed my condo?" He was silent. "Kevin, it isn't a real sale yet. The listing says for sale. Mom thought we could test the market. And then when I came back to sign, I never agreed to sell. We only wanted to see if anyone was interested. Then why does the listing say you're authorized?" "Lauren, I asked a question. I was going to tell buyers you're in London. And then? If someone was serious, I would call you. I am not selling. My parents need money. My condo is not their retirement fund. Chloe lost the money. It is not Chloe's business rescue fund either." He exhaled. "Mom says someone is willing to put down a reservation deposit." I stood up. "Have you accepted money?" "No." "Have you sent any document claiming you have power of attorney?" "No." "Signed anything?" "No." "Good. Take the listing down. Now." He said, "You're on the other side of the Atlantic. You can't keep controlling everything here." I laughed. "That property is titled to me." "Yes. I can control whether it is sold." I hung up. Rachel moved within the hour. A cease and desist went to Kevin. Building management was instructed. No real estate showings without my written authorization. No broker lockbox. No property documents released to outsiders. Cook County title records showed I was the sole titled owner. The title company contacted by one potential buyer also confirmed Kevin had no authority. The listing disappeared that afternoon. No police, no handcuffs, no fake buyer carrying a bag of cash. Only a very clear record. Kevin had falsely represented that he had authority to market my separate property. Rachel said, This probably does not make him a felon. I don't need it to. But it is useful evidence of poor judgment. That is enough. 1 week later, Kevin sent, "I'm sorry. I took it down." I did not respond. What frightened me was not that he almost sold the condo. He could not have legally closed a valid sale without me. What chilled me was, when his family needed money, their first idea was still to take something that belonged to me. We entered formal mediation nearly 4 months later. I flew from London to Chicago for 3 days. The mediation took place in the neutral mediator's office. Not a luxury restaurant. No lobster. No champagne. Only water, coffee, sandwiches, and 4 thick folders. On my side, Rachel. A forensic accountant named Michael Stern. Me. On Kevin's side, his lawyer. Kevin. No Linda. No Chloe. They were not parties to the divorce. My separate claim involving Chloe was being handled outside it. The mediator, a retired family court judge, said immediately, "We are not here to punish anyone. We are here to classify property, resolve claims, and end a marriage." I liked him. Michael presented the tracing. Joint savings. I had not emptied it. It would be divided under the settlement after common obligations were accounted for, unauthorized joint transfers to family during the final 2 years, $17,800, could be clearly established as unknown to me and unrelated to household purposes. Not the full $96,000. The money Kevin transferred from his own salary account during the marriage was more complicated and did not automatically become money owed back to Lauren. Michael did not exaggerate. I appreciated that. The $17,800 was allocated to Kevin's side in the property division. The SUV, title in my name, purchased with a bonus I earned during marriage, meaning there was still a marital component. Appraised value, $31,000. I kept the vehicle. Kevin received corresponding credit elsewhere in the retirement and investment division. No one seized the keys to settle a debt. The condo, deed and tracing confirmed it as my separate property. Kevin did not claim ownership. He requested 30 days to move completely. I offered 14. The mediator proposed 21. Agreed. Office collection property damage. Insurance had paid $13,900 after deductible and restoration limits. The remaining claim included the deductible, uninsured restoration costs, and damage to the office door. Through counsel, Chloe agreed to a $6,500 settlement paid over 18 months. No one threatened her with 7 years in prison. No one threatened to take Owen away. He was a child. The adults were responsible for putting him in a locked room that had been forced open. Family housing. Not an issue for the divorce court beyond occupancy. Linda and Robert would leave the condo with Kevin. Kevin had rented a 2-bedroom apartment in Evanston. His parents would stay with him temporarily. Chloe was moving back to Indiana with Owen to live closer to her ex-husband and reduce costs. I listened. I felt neither happy nor sad. Only that everyone was finally being forced to live within the structure they had chosen. By the end of mediation, one issue remained: spousal maintenance. Kevin earned significantly less than I did. 7-year marriage. He had not left a career to support me. He was not disabled. He was fully employable. The lawyers negotiated. Eventually, I agreed to a limited 9-month transitional payment to avoid prolonged litigation. Not because he deserved it. Because settlement sometimes means purchasing certainty. Kevin looked at me across the table. "You really want this finished?" "Yes." "Nothing left to say?" "The finances have said most of it." The mediator stepped out for 10 minutes. Kevin looked down at his hands. "I'm sorry." I stayed quiet. Not just about my parents. I understand it now. Understand what? I used you like infrastructure. That was the first thing he had said in months that made me truly look at him. Kevin continued. The house stayed clean. Bills got paid. There was always food. The car. Trips. If Mom needed something, you found a doctor. If Chloe needed money, I sent it because I knew you would still cover the house at the end of the month. I thought that was marriage. But really, I used the fact that you could always solve things as permission not to ask where your limits were. I said nothing. He continued. The day my parents arrived, I knew that if I asked you first, you would say no. Then why did you do it? Because I thought once they were inside the house, you would tolerate it. I looked at him. That is the first completely honest thing you've said. Yes. I'm sorry. I said. Thank you for finally naming it correctly. Kevin looked up. Maybe after London. No. He stopped. I did not say, maybe after 5 years. I did not leave the door open. I am not divorcing you because we live far apart. I am divorcing you because you put me in situations and calculated that I would endure them to keep the peace. That is not a distance problem. He nodded slowly. We signed the memorandum of settlement at the end of the day. No one won $600,000. No one lost everything. I walked out of the building with one unfamiliar feeling. Lightness. Not triumph. Lightness. That evening, I went to the condo one final time before returning to London. Kevin had moved almost everything out. Linda and Robert were gone too. The living room was empty. The rug had been professionally cleaned. There were a few marks on the wall. The office door had been replaced. The miniature collection sat in restoration boxes. I opened one. Falling water had been repaired. One small corner could not be restored. I held the broken piece in my hand. Kevin stood in the doorway. I remember your dad working on that. So do I. I'm sorry. Okay. He looked around. My parents will stay with me for a while. I know. Mom is furious. That is her right. Dad doesn't say much. I don't have anything to add. Kevin nodded. Before leaving, he placed a set of keys on the kitchen counter. That should be all of them. I checked. Condo key. Mailbox. Storage. Garage remote. I said, "Thank you." He stood there as though he wanted to say more. Finally, he said only, "I hope London goes well. I hope you're okay too." The door closed. That was the last time we were in the same room as husband and wife. The divorce decree was entered almost 6 months after mediation. I received Rachel's email while sitting on the Eurostar from Paris back to London. Subject: Final decree entered. I opened the PDF, read the first page, then closed it. No champagne, no celebration. I bought a cup of tea on the train, watched France move backward outside the window. 7 years of marriage ended in a 19-page document. I used to think something that lasted 7 years should end with a bigger moment. In reality, much of life ends with paperwork. I sold the River North condo 4 months later. I did not have to. It was mine. But every time I thought about the bedroom, I remembered Linda opening the closet as though it already belonged to her. Every time I thought about the office, I remembered the broken latch. I did not want to turn an asset into a museum of anger. I hired a realtor. Sold at a good price. After closing, I moved part of the proceeds into an investment account and used the rest as a down payment on a 2-bedroom flat in London after Meridian offered an option to extend my assignment. Not a palace. Not a penthouse. A bright apartment overlooking a small park near Canary Wharf. My mother stayed with me for 3 weeks over Thanksgiving. On the first day, she asked, "Why do the British cook turkey so dry?" I said, "Mom, don't start an international incident." She laughed. We made Thanksgiving dinner in the small kitchen. No one expected me to cook alone. No one sat waiting. Mom chopped vegetables. I made stuffing. A British colleague brought mince pies even though I told her Christmas was still a month away. She said, "They're already selling them, so we can eat them." I laughed until my stomach hurt. 1 year after I moved to London, Meridian promoted me to vice president, EMEA Commercial Operations. Not because of the divorce. Not because I was strong. Because the integration program my team led hit cost targets, retention goals, and rollout schedules across 4 markets. I still worked hard, but differently. I no longer came home and began a second unpaid shift. I learned to go to dinner on Friday nights without checking email. Learned to walk along the Thames on Sunday mornings. Learned to buy groceries for one person without feeling selfish. That last one was the hardest. Kevin emailed occasionally. Not often. Only about tax documents, an old account, something he found after the move. Then less and less. Rachel told me during one call that Kevin was still living in the Evanston apartment with Robert and Linda. Not a terrible room. Not punishment. A normal apartment. 2 bedrooms. Kevin slept in the small den. Robert made his own breakfast. Linda eventually agreed to attend a senior center 3 days a week. Kevin had to buy groceries, do laundry, drive his parents to appointments, and manage the household budget. No one died. No one was struck down by fate. He was simply doing the same work he had once described as natural when he assigned it to me. Once, Kevin wrote, "I understand now why you were always tired." I read it. Did not reply. Not because I was cruel. There was nothing left to say. Chloe moved back to Indiana. She took a manager job at another salon. The bankruptcy and settlement damaged her credit for years. But she had work. Owen spent half his time with her and half with his father. The damage settlement was paid regularly. In the final month, she emailed, "I'm sorry about your dad's models. I should never have opened that room." I replied, "Thank you for acknowledging it." Not friends, not enemies, just 2 people who had finished one obligation. Linda never apologized directly. But during the second Christmas, I received a card. I do not know whether she got my London address from Kevin or Rachel. Inside, she wrote only, "I still believe family should care for family, but I understand now that we had no right to make that decision for you." I read it twice. I did not need her to agree with everything I believed. Only that sentence, "We had no right to make that decision for you." I put the card in a drawer. Did not reply. One October afternoon, I returned to Chicago for a conference. I walked past River North. The old condo had lights on. A plant sat in the window. A small bicycle was visible in the living room. A new family. I did not stop. I kept walking. That evening, I ran into Kevin in the hotel lobby. He was wearing a suit. Thinner. Not broken. Just different. He looked at me. "Lauren. Kevin." "London? Good. You? Good." He smiled slightly. "Mom finally learned how to use the dishwasher." I laughed before I could stop myself. Miracle. "Dad makes chili every Sunday." "That sounds nice." "Yeah." A pause. Kevin said, "I used to think you left me because you couldn't stand my parents." I looked at him. "No. I know now. It took me a while. I thought you left because you didn't want to sacrifice. The truth was that you had been sacrificing for too long." I said nothing. He continued, I'm sorry I called you selfish that night. I accept that. I'm also sorry I treated the money you earned like it naturally belonged to the household while treating my salary like I could distribute it however I wanted to my family. I accept that too. He looked at me. Are you happy? I'm peaceful. He nodded. Maybe that's better. Yes. We said goodbye. No handshake. No hug. No looking back. I stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. I realized I no longer wanted him to regret anything more than he already did. That was when I knew I had truly left the marriage. If you told my story in a few sentences, you would say, my in-laws sold their house and moved into my condo. My husband agreed without asking me. My mother-in-law took over my bedroom. My husband expected me to cook, clean, and care for his parents. I accepted a 5-year assignment in London, moved out, and stopped paying the expenses I had quietly carried for years. His family immediately descended into chaos. His sister and nephew arrived too. Then I learned that almost all the proceeds from my in-laws' house had already been given to his sister, and my husband had known the entire time. When the salon failed, they even tried to use my condo as a source of money. A child damaged the architectural models that reminded me of my father. I divorced him. It sounds like a revenge story. But the most important part was not the card I canceled or the housekeeper I stopped paying. It was one sentence Kevin said on the first night. You doing a little more isn't a big deal. I had heard versions of that sentence for 7 years. You make more, so paying a little extra shouldn't matter. You're better organized, so doing a little more shouldn't matter. Chloe is struggling, helping a little more shouldn't matter. My parents are getting older, caring a little more shouldn't matter. Each little more was small. But thousands of little mores added up to a life designed around everyone else's needs. What I did was not abandon a family. I returned responsibility to the people who owned it. Kevin said supporting his parents was the duty of a son. I agreed. So he did it. Robert and Linda said they had the right to give their money to whoever they wanted. I agreed with that too. They had every right to give Chloe $242,000. But the right to give away your own money does not include the right to use someone else's home and income as your replacement retirement fund. Chloe had the right to try to build a business. She also had to live with the consequences when it failed. I had the right to set boundaries. And for the first time in years, I used it. One winter morning in London, I sat beside the window in my flat, getting ready for a call with Singapore. The restored falling water model sat on the shelf. One corner was still missing. Beside it, I kept the broken piece in a small glass box. Not perfect. Still there. I liked it more that way. My father used to say good architecture is not something that is never affected by pressure. It is something that knows where the load belongs. It took me years to understand that the same thing applies to people. A family cannot place all its weight on one person and call that love. Neither can a marriage. I opened my laptop. The first email was from HR. 5-year assignment, year 2 review. The second was from my mother. Call me. I found a terrible lamp for your living room. I smiled. Outside the window, London was under a light rain. I used to be afraid that leaving meant abandoning a home. Now I knew, home is not the place where the greatest number of people feel entitled to walk in. Home is the place where no one needs your silence in order to be comfortable. I took a sip of coffee, opened my calendar, and started my day. Not Kevin's, not his parents', not Chloe's, mine.